Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to Oban Star Racers Episode 6. So yeah, it's been quite a while since we've done a reaction to Oban Star Racers. And for those who may not know why, the reason is because I dropped it. However, I dropped it for the wrong reasons. I dropped it because honestly I was bored with it and felt like it wasn't going anywhere, rather than dropping it because I didn't like it. On the contrary, there was actually quite a few things I did like about it. Like some of the characters, the art style is pretty darn unique, and it has some pretty good voice actors. My biggest issues with it were that, again, it didn't seem to be going anywhere, especially with the storyline with Ava and her father, which seemed to be just stretching out for no reason. It doesn't seem like it needs to be stretched out. And the parts where she almost tells him and fails to do so because someone distracts them or something gets in the way is so cliche and just really stupid at this point that it did turn me off of it a bit more because of that. The other characters I don't really have anything like strongly against or for. Like there's the alien prince guy who hasn't really left any big impact on me so far. And then there's the other crew members who are working with Ava and all. And they're just kind of okay at this point. Nothing really strong in terms of character to speak of. But nothing bad either. And that's, like I said, kind of where I left off with it back when I initially dropped it. I was just kind of feeling meh on it. Like, it wasn't bad, but at the same time, it wasn't really impressing me either. But I agreed that I should be bringing it back. It was one of the multiple shows that I'm bringing back to give another chance to. But I actually want to take this time to actually explain something that we're going to be utilizing going forward, and I think that's going to make a bigger difference. So, as you know, we've had this policy on the channel for a while now where it's been the below 10 policy, basically as a way to refer to it. Basically, it means if a show reaches below 10% for me in terms of interest in continuing, then I drop it. Basically, it comes down to meaning that I really don't have any interest or close to any real interest in continuing to watch and continuing to put effort into reacting to it. Because as I've stated before, it does actually take effort for me to do these reactions. I don't know about other reactors, but for me specifically, it actually takes a lot out of me to have to actively, react to a show. Like, even if I'm watching a show on my own, like, for example, Stranger Things Season 3, since that aired last week and I watched through all of that. Yeah, when I watch a show like that, yeah, I may say a couple things, just talk out randomly, but I'm not, like, trying to commentate on what's happened, trying to share my thoughts. Actively, like, putting forth that effort does take a lot out of me. And I can't fully explain why, but it does. And so it's like I don't want to put forth effort into a show that I'm not enjoying or not feeling like I want to continue, putting that effort into. But I've also realized lately that that kind of scale is really just kind of poorly explained and poorly handled. Because basically it's like, okay, what dictates 10%? And I basically said before that there is no real scale to that. It's basically just based on feeling. So, at this point, we're going to just change it to basically just not even beating around the bush, not even saying a, like, 10% thing. We're just going to put it, like, if I have no interest in continuing at all. if there's nothing that makes me want to continue watching the show. Nothing that makes me interested in investing this time to reacting to it specifically. So it's not like a scale anymore. It's not a 10% thing anymore. It's just when I just don't have any desire. And hopefully that doesn't happen. But we're also adding another thing into it as well called the 3-strike rule. Now, a lot of different channels have had this, and a lot of different people just in general have this for shows they watch and all. But let me explain exactly how ours is going to go. So obviously, 3-strike rule. You get the general premise of it, 3 strikes and you're out. This is kind of an alternative to the just, okay, I don't have any interest in continuing. And the 3-strike rule is going to be a lot more, I would say, difficult to enact, you know? Because it's basically like the strikes are not just, oh, I don't like this episode, so it's a strike. No. The strikes would have to be something that actually really bothers me. Something that is upsetting in terms of how it's presented, how things happen or whatnot. A good example of this is just today I watched the first episode of that new anime, How Many Kilos Are the Dumbbells You Lift? It's a weightlifting anime about cute high school girls lifting weights. Pretty much all you need to know because there's no actual depth in the episode. In fact, it actually goes out of its way to dash that hope. But yeah, the episode offended me in a few ways. It was very heavy with fat shaming. It gave off a lot of negative body image moments in it. Like, there were a lot of moments that like gave off these negative expectations of body image, you know, the kind of things that would lead to a lot of people, especially young teenage girls who might be watching this, to start suffering from things like bulimia and anorexia. So there were things in that episode that straight up offended me. And straight up just, not just didn't work or not interested me, but actually bothered me. And so that's kind of what the 3 strikes will be. It's like if something in an episode really just bothers me, like on a moral level, on an emotional level, on a personal level, stuff like that, then it gets a strike. And I'm not saying just like 1 strike per episode either, by the way. It's 3 strikes, period. That means if there's 3 things, it could happen in a single episode, it could happen in a single scene. But they have to be separate things. They can't be like the same thing or part of the same sentence or piece of dialogue. They do have to be 3 separate things. I will give it that. But basically, if a show or an episode does 3 things, then I drop it. And for a show like this, for Oban, which I'm continuing after a while, basically everything's at a clean slate right now. Basically, so it's like nothing from the first 5 episodes of Oban would count towards that right now. And I am going to keep a list of this, by the way. I am going to keep this on a list. And yeah, so that way I can keep track of it all. Just to be safe. But if anything gets 3 strikes, then it's dropped. And, of course, I'll finish the episode if I'm in the middle of an episode. I'm not just going to stop watching and drop it there. No, I'll finish the episode. But if it gets 3 strikes, then I'm dropping it because... and that may seem harsh. But there's a point where it's like, okay, 1 bad thing is one thing. It's like, okay, a lot of shows have done stuff that have really offended me. One Piece, one of my favorite anime altogether, has done things that have offended me. 2 things is starting to develop a pattern, and it's starting to get a little more questionable in my eyes. But 3 things, it's like you're not learning at all. And it's why should I bother if you're just going to keep putting this kind of stuff in there? Why should I bother? Now, you may be wondering, is there a way to get those strikes back? Like, is there a way to take strikes off of the slate? And there is. There is, but I'm actually not going to talk about that here because I am going to actually be posting a separate video going into more detail about this entire new system. And I'm going to specifically mention there how strikes can be erased. But it's probably not going to happen too often that they do. But I'll explain that there. But either way, so yeah, I don't remember exactly what happened last time on Oban. I know they were just continuing with the races and all, and Ava was starting to like really get a hang of it. But then the other guy, the old racer, came back from his injury. But he started to have issues again, and it looks like Ava's going to have to take over full time. They're probably going to give us a more understandable recap that will fill in a lot of details as well at the start of the episode, because this is the kind of show that does recap things. So we'll probably see there more of what happened. And we can continue on, and hopefully it starts to get better. Hopefully that this is a series that maybe just starts off slow, but really starts to improve as time goes on. At least that's what I'm hoping for this show. Either way, that being said, let's just get on with it. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So when I restarted Dofus after having taken quite a while off of it and everything, it started back up with 2 episodes that, I believe it was just 2, but a couple episodes that were really, really good. And it kind of made me laugh back at that point, because it's like, oh, I dropped it like right before it gave us those good episodes. And now Oban Star Racers has just done the same thing. I dropped Oban Star Racers after episode 5 because I felt like it wasn't going anywhere or doing anything interesting or fun. And then episode 6 does stuff that's interesting and fun. Plus, it actually gives us some... It further builds this entire race and everything by basically revealing that there's this ultimate prize that apparently can grant any wish or desire. Which is a fascinating idea, which obviously we can already tell what Don and Ava would want to use that for. Let's be honest, we know. But other than that, this episode was just really fun. And yeah, it was mainly because of Paradise. So Paradise is this, I guess just another alien species. This kind of like almost robotic cat creature that seems to be very much a trickster. She likes to mess around with people and do like all kinds of mischievous little things to try and get herself to win. Like, for example, prior to everything, prior to the race and all, she completely did this, she completely tricked Jordan and Ava, or Molly if you want to call her that. And she made them think that there's this arcade and everything. In reality, they were remotely piloting their own ship, causing it to be destroyed and everything before the race, as well as to possibly almost kill their mechanics and stuff. So we see that Paradise was basically fucking with them the entire time. And then during the race, because of the damage that the Arrow 2 suffered, we saw that Paradise had a massive advantage. Now, they ended up doing this arena race, where it's not only a race, but there's these separate, like, arena sections where the ships can, like, just straight up battle each other, basically. And in the end, only the ship that ends up making it to the finish line does win. But these arenas allow for them to be able to take out their opponents with ease, basically. Now, Paradise has a really interesting ship. And it seems pretty well suited for the arena thing, which it seems like that this host planet and everything have been kind of screwing around with the with these specialty races and everything, and making them like kind of skewed against the Earth team. So I definitely think that this kind of implied that Paradise's ship and everything is really well suited for an arena race. Plus, it definitely seemed like that. Just in terms of the way she was able to move through everything, her gun power and all. But in the end, Molly ended up winning it for them by just simply realizing that the way to get back to the finish line was to basically start by going back the way you came. And so Molly figured out how to finish the race and left Paradise just kind of gloating for no reason. So Molly did save the day there in the end. Meanwhile, the one dude, the other pilot, I cannot think of his name at the moment, but with his continuing stresses and everything regarding his injury and all, it seems like at the moment he's just kind of wandered off. At first I thought like he was like sent to maybe be put into some rehab and stuff for his injuries and all. But no, actually it seems like he just actually wandered off on his own. So I wonder where that's going to go. This was definitely the most interesting episode, and honestly, I would say my favorite episode of this series by far. Because not only was Paradise really cute and hilarious, and very interesting. I love the fact that her ship's control panel is just a DDR pad. That's amazing. But the episode itself was actually really well paced, all things considered, and had a very just interesting plot that, while a lot of it did feel a little bit like, what's it called? Oh my goodness, my mind is blanking again. It did feel a little bit like a, oh my gosh, my mind is completely blanking on the word. I said it earlier during the reaction. I don't know. It felt like a complete, not like unnecessary part at points, but at the same time, it also gave us some big stuff related to the main story that actually felt important and worth going into and worth revealing here. So, overall, I very much enjoyed it and thought it was a good episode. And like I said, it's kind of funny because where I dropped it off at, it's like it's starting to get way too boring and uninteresting and repetitive. And then it just comes out with something like this, just like Dofu's did. Now, I'm hoping that this starts to go more in this kind of direction, unlike Dofus, which did end up fading again and just losing my interest. I really hope that Oban continues to just have that interest factor in there and continues to excite me like this one did. But yeah, overall, tell me what you thought of this episode of Oban Star Racers in the comments below, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.
And though you've come through many obstacles,